We are the foundation, bulletproof the hating. From the plantation, we built the whole nation. We are the foundation, bulletproof the hating. From the plantation, we built the whole nation. We are the foundation, bulletproof the hating. From the plantation, we built the whole nation. We are the foundation, bulletproof the hating. From the plantation, we built the whole nation.
Black in Power in the building on this beautiful Sunday morning, y'all. This has been the year has already started off on fire. And we're gonna keep this party going because we are pushing forward in the year that we've been working so hard for. This is one of the most important years in the reparations movement. And I really want, can you guys hear me? I just want to make sure I'm heard. Can you guys hear me? Okay, good. Yes, I am so excited for what we're doing right now. And it's just some great things that's about to happen. So I'm having issues with getting my co-host up. I just sent it to you again, Black in Power.
Yes, Miss G, they didn't even let me send you I sent you a message. I see it didn't even go through. I had to, I had to,
And,
I had to close my phone. I mean, turn my phone off and on. What is going on? Every time I get in your space, I couldn't see Conscious. I couldn't see Conscious at all. This is crazy. That's all I wanted to say. I sent you a message and I see it didn't even go through. I was telling you that it's starting again, Miss G. I got to leave and come back.
and you know what? It's okay. And see, they think that they can stop the message from happening. It doesn't work. We already know. That shut me down completely last year. They knew they couldn't do that because I don't really say anything that's not true, at least in response. And most of the time, it's if you say something sideways, I'll say something sideways back. And if you're not taking the other person out, you can't take me out. So most of the time, they don't have a reason why they would shut me down. But yeah, it's nuts. Hey, Eve. Hey, Major, Michael, Sir Norman, everybody, Nappy, Street Social, Demetrius, Biz, thank you for always coming
You
through.
kind of going in the matrix too.
Oh no, can you guys hear me now? I'm not. I'm actually in the best area with all bars. Like I really am. It sucks, but today I wanted us to do because we always debate amongst ourselves, but I want to make sure that we are adding the value. Like we're starting off the year with getting certain things in line when it comes to our reparations fight. We can't. A lot of times we kind of go and we're reactive. Now we're in a position where we can actually be proactive when we're, when it comes to how we address things in the movement. The biggest thing that I really have been looking at is us repeating and keeping traditional things happening. We started traditions in this movement. Starting last year, we had the MLK initiative, which evolved to something that actually, see, this is when you know it's a God fight. The MLK initiative just started off everybody going to all of the MLK events locally, spreading the good news, giving out flyers, talking about what reparations is, what it should look like, and what to expect. From the municipal, state level, and federal level reparations conversations, and whatever they put together for these particular reparations packages, right? And then this year, the exposure. See, that's the biggest part of the reparations fight that happens. It happens when you're doing God's work, the worst gets exposed. So, and once it's exposed, you act accordingly. So, when it came to when it comes to this year, we still on the MLK initiative. Everyone was giving out flyers. People was going to the MLK events, and then we went to the MLK event down in South Carolina, and boom, the NAACP exposed themselves. They couldn't help but expose themselves. They were compelled to, because the devil always has to come out when you call it by its name. Now, on that, I am going to go to the hands because Conscious has back to what we're going to be discussing today. And everyone, each and everyone, who would like to participate in the debates today. This is a us thing, it's a family affair. So we will be debating amongst ourselves, amongst one another, on how we're going to push this fight going. So on that note, go ahead, Conscious. Welcome to the space, my brother.
Thank you. Thank you, Miss G. What's up, Black and Power, my buddy? Everybody in the space, Miss D, everybody that knows me or whatever. I like where you was talking about the state of America is their value and legacy yours. I'm gonna answer the question first and say, not really, in my opinion. I don't think it's possible to gut them out and to replace them with on code people at this point because there's too much money being funneled in and they are already grooming their heirs. And I ran across that problem here in St. Louis. And I want to also say, we got to be careful because I'm so glad you played the National Black Anthem. Do you know that this year in the Super Bowl, they're going to sing it this year for the first time? And I'm like, wow, that's interesting. Now that we're talking about reparations and it's all of this galvanization going on and all of these commissions, all of a sudden, the National Fixed League with their Super Bowl thing, they're gonna make sure that they put us like a little token out there. And of course, there's some people mad. The white supremacists mad about their, oh, there's only one national anthem. Why are there this and that? No, because just like the NAACP is trying to step into certain parts of the reparations discussion, they're also trying to continue throwing out tokens, just like Jim Crow Joe threw out the Juneteenth token. Now we say, well, we're gonna get it. We're gonna get the Negroes. We're gonna give them their national anthem. Maybe that'll shut them up. No, that's not gonna shut us up. We need them cash payments. So, with that being said, St. Louis Reparations Commission, it reconvenes this Wednesday. I'll be there. Then our mayor is coming in February. I'm working on my statement now. Thank everybody that I had that they've been really crazy with the exposure. Like they don't have any flyers or anything like that that I can put out, and I'm only one man. I can't do everything. Hopefully, they put it on the city website, like maybe hopefully tomorrow, and I could spread it out on the Twitterverse or whatever like that. So if they don't, I definitely will send a live stream out and send it into some people DMs so y'all can watch it live. They've actually they actually are giving a budget to our commission this year after having the whole commission for a whole year. There has not been a budget. Now they found the way to get a budget with an extension on our commission. Our commission was supposed to end in March, but because of the outcry and the help from you all on these spaces and everything like that, and it's also a election year for the mayor and Cori Bush, they're going to try to tokenize the reparations. So I don't want that to happen. So what I'm going to do is continue pressing. I'm going to continue doubling down with my information, my statistics, and my facts. And with all you all's help and keep tweeting and adding and stuff like that, we're going to push it forward. So thank you for giving me a little time to talk. Like I said, let's watch out for that, y'all. They're going to try to give us a little token here, a little token there. And but we got to know that the main thing is the main thing. That's the lineage-based cash payments. And I'll land.
No, I really appreciate you for sharing that information because that's actually a lot of what we're going to be discussing today. This is I really want us to like get back to the basics, get back to the working part of this fight. I know it's been so many things going on. We had the holidays get past. I try to chill so it's not so overwhelming for everybody, but we have to get back. This year is so important that we must focus, guys. Everything that we've ever worked for depends on what we're able to successfully accomplish this year. Now, we have a new fight on our hands that we didn't even know we were going to have until until what happened and down in South Carolina. But we knew we had that fight, but we didn't know it was that bad. So that's why when we discuss the issues, is there value in legacy orgs? We got to understand that there are levels to these legacy orgs. See, the legacy orgs don't only they absorb our most brightest minds. They absorb our most brightest minds, and they try to align them with whatever they want with whatever they want um, to achieve, like whatever their goals are. They try to align our youth. We've noticed they have moved from going to the churches to galvanize the support there. They've already got a lot of the seniors and the elderly neutralized there by way of the church, that they weaponized that because they saw that people would go to the church and they would get activated in a more like a street way, in a grassroots way. So they said, hey, we need to get into those churches, but they starve out a lot of the churches, and they say, hey, we'll feed you, Mr. Church, if you follow our rules. So that's why you hear the conversation saying you can't mix, what's happening on in a church with the politics. Yet and still, every election season, you see a politician sitting in a black church, and it's a reason for that. You see, I saw in South Carolina. We're spreading the good news about reparations and talking about this amazing candidate, Marcel Dixon, which we want to make sure you guys are donating to his campaign. If you guys can, please donate to the campaign, because we want to make sure that we're making a loud statement. And those resources are going to things like helping us do the text banking and the phone banking for the campaign. It's helping with him being able to travel and get this message out, to actually just monetize his campaign so that we can make things happen with him. He's he's one of many people who are running for office, but he is the voice, and we know it's a genuine voice. People can say whatever they want to say about Marcel. You can tell real when you see it. Real recognize real. That's why we're attracted to it. We're attracted to the message. So we actually just to say, like, I have been helping Marcel to the most of my abilities, and we've had over 27,000 contacts that we've done in the text banking just this week alone. And we can't do that without the support of you guys. So definitely, if you really are serious about getting busy with this reparations fight, it's time to get dirty with it. I'm even sending in some donations this week, pay week. I've added them to my pay, to my pay, my bill list, so that I can start contributing, because every single donation, I like, this man is 100% handling this stuff and trying to do as much as he can. Every single donation is going towards things that we can do. Those texts is expensive after you do a couple thousand of them. And this is him coming out with stuff, what he has, whatever he had left. He needs some support, because we know he's going to carry the message. And we don't want him to almost win. We want him to win, because that's a huge win for the reparations fight. I also want the other, like, anybody else who has the, like, conscious. I know you go to a lot of the events and stuff like that. But anybody else that's looking to really run in your local state. I'm even considering a role in the next couple of years after I get my kids out of high school, running for office locally, because we have the message, we have the tools. If we really want to see this through, sometimes we got to do it ourselves. Even if it's a small role, hey, let us know so that we can get behind you as we push forward with this reparations fight. And one thing that we want to do when people get to the polls this year, I created, if you see my button, Reparations 2024, you see my avatar, America's responsibility to correct its original sin. And I still have the American investment for those who want that one. But at every election poll, we're going to be the new faces there. Everybody else is standing out there giving out literature. We have to be that presence at the voting polls. And we'll start working on probably like a trifold, pamphlet that we can give out, something that's universal across the country. So that we can tell people what state reparations should look like and consist of, what federal reparations should look like and consist of, because we're compelling this system to do what we want them to do. Um, if you would like to participate, just like they give out the voters stickers at the polls, you can give out the Reparations 2024 stickers at the polls, or you can put buttons out of them. Whatever you wish to do, I will send you the PDF version or a JPEG, whatever version you need of this, so that you can make the stickers if you're going to be volunteering at the polls in your community. This is a huge statement, because when those little babies are walking through, now we're going to give them, you know how they do with the I voted? It's the reason why you get a sticker when you leave. It's a statement. That is marketing, free marketing for what we're doing. So we're going to use the same thing that they use. We're going to do the same thing. It's going to be huge if you're walking around and you're giving those little babies. They're going to be like, I want my reparations sticker. You want your reparations sticker and you want your reparations. You know what reparations is? It sparks the conversation. The parents get excited. The kids start talking about it. So when they hear it again, it's not a new conversation. We have to spread this like a wildfire. So that's one thing that I'm adding to any state. I don't care what state you're in, we can do this. Choose a poll that you'll volunteer at. I'm taking the initiative to do it in my local community. I'm suggesting that everybody else do the same. Nobody else is going to do it if we don't do it. We get out here, even when you're giving out the flyers. Like, say you want to do the flyers, I'm doing another universal flyer. I know we have one specific that has like the MLK, and I have that we did for his birthday. But you can still use that. It's a universal flyer. It's no timestamp on it. It's literally the message. He said he was coming to get his check, not on his birthday, but period, when he gets back to DC. And what I saw, I actually have been going to different states, started in January. I've already started my little pilgrimage across this country. Um, it's just things that I don't want to call it a pilgrimage, but it's kind of like I don't know. It's just I don't know. I'm kind of like getting in tune with our ancestors. I'm lost for words right now. But I'm like going to different states and I'm like studying our history, just touching the soil that our ancestors worked so hard on. So when I'm doing this to Atlanta a few weeks ago, and before I went to South Carolina, I went down to Atlanta just to celebrate MLK in the right way. We went to his birth home, and I noticed that they had an eternal flame for that brother. And it's a reason why they do eternal flames. They have eternal flames. It's like you're gonna burn in hell for eternity. They got this man on flames. The only other person that I've seen with an eternal flame is John F. Kennedy, and that's at the Arlington Cemetery. So they got him on an eternal flame. You know when you're doing something powerful because they make sure they corrupt or destroy you in every way. That's why, like, I went there and I saw that, and I saw the energy. Like, I took in a lot of the energy, and then when we went to the MLK event down in South Carolina, we really felt. It was like you could feel it, and I felt like he was finally being heard. I feel like we were amplifying his energy. It was everything that I felt down there. I felt the sorrow. I felt we gotta do something to fix this energy. And then when we got to South Carolina, we wasn't even there to protest. We were just there to attend an event. it turned into something else. And I feel like that was MLK's energy manifesting. I feel like that was Khalid Muhammad because his birthday was that Friday that we celebrated. I felt it was his energy that we were manifesting. And you could see the truth came out right there. And everybody saw it on camera. So as I'm going around the country, I'm kind of getting more and more history and information from our people, and I'm gonna bring that experience to you guys over. I'm gonna try to hit at least 30 states this year. I'm gonna try to do about 30 states, but yeah, I think that's important with what we got. We got a huge assignment this year. So it's going to be very important that we all get busy with the work. So I'm going to go back to the point that we were talking about before. Jelly, I'm going to go to your hands and then I'm going to allow Black Empower to jump in to the conversation as well. And then we're going to start hitting some of these questions that we have that we'll be debating amongst each other. Saying that, Jelly, the mic is yours, and welcome to the stage. Oh, and it was a pleasure meeting you. Finally, Jelly, in person. I actually met this sister. She's so small and full of fire in real life. But anyway, I'm going to pass the mic to you. Go ahead, sis.
What's going on? Yeah, it was good to meet you. It's good. I like when I see somebody and I really see them. Like, I don't know what it was, but I seen a few people posting themselves at the parade, but not posting themselves. You got to stand on business. Post yourself. If you're gonna post anything, don't just post everybody else. Post yourself too. But I appreciate me and you, and it was good. It was good energy. Y'all did what y'all needed to do. They wouldn't let me in after I went and got Starbucks. After I told they told me they'll let me back in. But you see how they do us. Is there any value in legacy organizations? There is on a. All right, y'all. So I've been studying. I'm gonna push this point everywhere I go. I've been studying the ruling elite theory that the Jews used to create the ruling class. Hold on, where does notebook at? And the Black legacy orgs. Hold on, y'all. It's somewhere in here. The Black legacy orgs are the high potential for control group. They are not the real power group. They are the high potential for control group. And what they do is they get the younger generation of people who should be the high potential for control group. So I'm in college right now, right? I'm in the NAACP. I'm gonna be honest, y'all. I didn't know that we were supposed to be doing real work. All we do is throw parties and fashion shows. Right now, in the smaller collective of the Political Action Committee, my Political Action Committee is actually very active within community. But it's 200 of us in the NAACP, it's 20 of us in this Political Action Committee, right? But what these organizations seek to do, they seek to find the ones who are who are movers and shakers, and they groom them to be something else than what they actually should be, right? I'll give y'all another example of this. I was at a young Black professionals meeting the other day, and two things came out of this. On one side, I met this Black dude who owns a magazine company, and if you put your phone over his magazine, y'all know how on Hogwarts all the pictures move and stuff like that. If you put your phone on his magazine over any ad, it will be a full commercial for the ad. It is like a VR interactive magazine, right? And then on the other side, they told me they had asked the question, you know, the little internet question about the $1 million or the 850 credit score. They really, and they telling people to take an 850 credit score over $1 million. And what I was thinking when they were saying that was, one, y'all will say anything. There will never be a day I will take a 850 credit score over $1 million. But also, y'all are grooming future professionals to be in debt or to do certain stuff, and it just doesn't make sense. And what I learned is like these these groups of people, this high potential for control. Let me go ahead and read y'all the definition of this. A set of individuals having a certain political framework but yet missing something socially. So the high potential for control group is somebody who has the political opinions of a ruling elite, but does not have the social power or the economic power to actually be the ruling elite. So they push ideas that they don't even fit within. And that's what a lot of these legacy orgs do. They create, they groom young professionals. They groom people who would be able to solve the problem of, like, all right, so on the larger scale, what the high potential for control group does do is they make the everybody else the low potential for unity group. And what that group is literally kind of what it just says, is the a group of people who have a low potential for unity, and the high potential group separates and makes that possible, because now the legacy organizations are telling us, are, we to a certain extent, the way that their history has been told is that they are leading us, that we should be looking for them towards leadership. And if they're telling us to do one thing and then a good portion of us are telling us to do it as something else, it is separating us, it is disorganizing us. And that is what makes us, as a whole, the low potential for unity group, because our high potential for control group does not serve a purpose that benefits us. And I believe that our legacy organizations are making sure that we have a low potential for unity by giving us misinformation and grooming us to be, and this isn't a blanket statement, because I know people in D9, I know people in NAAC, I know people who sit in these places that are really good people, but they're grooming us to assimilate, not to thrive, not to innovate. They're not pushing innovation, they're pushing assimilation. And that is 100% intentional. Let's see, what else do I have from this?
I wanted you to go back. I don't want
I'll
you to go
land
too
that. That's
far.
good. Yeah, that's good.
You
I'll land
know
that
you
there.
hit
Thank you.
no, you hit a lot of points, because I've noticed that as we've been attending all of these events across the country, the ones that they've been doing specifically at the colleges, as well as the ones, even the event that they did for MLK down in South Carolina, they're trying to pander to the younger group because they have all these old people and they're kind of dying off, and they're not able to stay relevant without any fire behind them. So I noticed what you said. When you go to these events, they talk to the kids and tell them what they should do. It's not a town hall where people are interacting with each other and it's like a common, ability where they can like speak back and forth. They're actually just
Man,
speaking to the youth and telling them what to say. Same thing at this event. If you notice, they had a lot of the older, down in South Carolina, they had a lot of the older sorority and fraternity leaders that were there, all excited with all this. And the younger ones was like, it seemed like they were trying to pull the younger ones in. But if you notice the
they
band,
were like,
and then but the younger ones was just excited to be there with their line brothers, and they trying to get some level of relevance in their fraternities. And what I noticed at the top of the fraternity was Clyburn. So, and we can look at that as a model. That's how they weaponize these organizations, because you see them doing a lot of things in the community, but it's only laying band-aids. And just to say, look at what they're doing, and he's a part of this, so he has to be doing it too. But it also makes the people that are a part of these orgs compelled to vote or a certain way. Or would you even agree with that? If you notice how they were
I
saying
mean, I
when everybody was
definitely
like, "Hey,
agree with
Marcel,"
that. Like
yeah,
a couple months ago, I had John King John King is a representative here in South Carolina. He had reached out to me because he wanted me to help him with his protests against Ron DeSantis on Winthrop campus, right? So I go, and I'm obviously like, of course, you know what I'm saying? So I go and help him do it. And while I'm at the protest, what they did was like, so they, all of the people who are doing, like, pushing the LGBT, bathroom inclusive thing, they kept making them stand at the front of the protest when everybody was speaking. So when it was my turn to speak, I got in trouble with Winthrop, not even with John King. I got in trouble with Winthrop because I told all of them to move back, and then I put all the Black people in front. And then they tried to cut me out of the article because I did that, but then said that there was homophobia afoot. That's not being homophobic. I'm here to push a Black agenda. I don't need that in my picture frame. at the time. Because when I'm trying to push, like, if we're protesting Ron DeSantis being on our campus for CRT, why the fuck do I even need them in my picture? That doesn't even make sense. But they do it intentionally to distract and push a different message. And that is what the high potential for control group will always do. They want to be in power so bad they will push agendas that serve them no purpose just to experience power.
Yeah, and anybody, if you guys want to add to that, or like if you even have an idea on how we can combat these groups, because right now, they have a web that has existed, and I mean that by saying like a spider web that has existed for so many years. They've been able to use these tools and adjust them as needed, to get us in line and really to the point where we are today. Thankfully, to those who were able to anything or not to go, or thank God for the family bloodlines who didn't allow themselves to get trapped into this crap. Um, now we have to figure out how can we um get to those minds. How can we get to those minds? Because we need, I'm not saying we need, but we do. We need to tighten up our base. We need to do that, and we have to expand it. We need to tighten it up and expand it at the same time. As we're expanding, we need to tighten it up. It's like we need our youth, we need our elders, we need everybody in between. And then we got to tighten it up on expectations. This is what this means. This is why we're fighting. This is why I've been having these small conversations, just even with the elders over in DC, which has evolved tremendously to a point where they have a club now. And you have the elders, the DC Elders for Action, and they're putting things on the table. They're saying, hey, we vote in policy. You don't get our vote anymore, Democrats. You're not getting our votes in this way. And explaining to them the importance of the reparations fight, our elders at that point, they're looking at their grandkids that they love, their children that they love, and they're like, what can I do to break through this? So we have an opportunity now countrywide. We see them, we saw what they were able to do down in South Carolina when they were trying to pull in the young. And the young were only getting pulled in because they had a tie to them somehow. So the elders, they were able to pull them in because they had the tie, which usually was the church, for them. Now we have ways that we can break into our youth. We have the access online to pretty much talk to the youth. We can get to the youth online. We can get to the elders by actually reaching out, because a lot of them are not online. That's what I'm learning, but they're saying the same damn thing that we're saying. What other ways do you guys think that could be effective with making sure that once we get to November's election, everyone is just standing, the dust settles, and everyone's standing, and all they see is reparations, period. Reparations now. Reparations, or you know, how can we get our people to that point? I believe we have the ability to do this stuff in a year if we buckle down and really get busy. That's on and off the app, because we do need people to do the things that they've been doing online. Whether it's responding to people and the things that they've been saying online, or like creating online campaigns to go against other groups, or just spreading, hey, get this flyer to you. Oh, all right, let's get it. Now we take that offline and we bring it to the streets, into reality. And then we give people something tangible, so they can see, that it's power in this movement and it's not just an online thing. So, yeah, I'm gonna go to the people that's on the stage. We have, and thank you, Jelly, so much, because I know you're over there. You studying and bringing the messages out there. I'm gonna bring the mic. I got Brother Muko on the stage, Miss D, and Net. You guys can speak or join in or add to this.
Good morning.
I'll
I'll go
let the
after Brother
ladies go.
Muko.
Okay.
I always go to the ladies. I was just saying I'll let the ladies go first. What's up, Miss D? You can go for me.
Yeah, he said you can go ahead, Nat,
Oh,
or Miss D.
Brother Muko, that wasn't me.
Oh, how you doing, Miss D? What's up, Nat?
Good morning. Good morning.
But yeah, I yield to the ladies because I was just gonna be brief.
Go ahead, Nat.
good morning, y'all. Happy Sunday. Good morning, Miss G. Great space, Black and Power. Shout out to everybody on the stage and in the audience. To speak to the topic of the room, I think I no longer think there's value in the legacy organizations, and not as it pertains to our lineage, our specific Black American heritage lineage, unless there is some sort of documentation that shows that they have invested in anything substantial or tangible that has assisted in our progress, which, to all of us, we just don't see it. But what I will tell you this, I think a lot of these legacy organizations have moved to a Pan-African approach to things. I think they flatten Blackness, and I think they work more specifically towards one particular political affiliation. I think they're playing across party lines, and I think what they're doing is to keep us on a train that we have been on for how many decades now, with no real change in our position and no real dent to the system in which we're living under. That systemic and systematic racism has not shifted under their leadership. It has not improved. I don't see where we're benefiting. And what I will say is that with these legacy organizations, one of the things that we need to do is what we are doing. We are the grassroots, and we're rising, and we're making notice that, hey, these legacy organizations aren't representing us in the way in which we deem appropriate. So now the awakening comes first, then there's action, and then it's getting it over the line. And what we're up against these legacy organizations is that they have financial backing, and they also have a reputation. The thing is, they have a reputation of people. What I mean by that is people recognize them, they believe in them, especially those that haven't been awakened yet. So what we need to do is shift that reputation to someone that represents us, is producing for us, and put their true reputation and what they're doing on blast, and allow people to discern for themselves to make a decision. Because perhaps maybe in certain regions and certain localities, the legacy organizations are getting things done. If that is the case, how do we build upon that? We continue to do, because the legacy organizations are responding to us, especially after reparations. Narcan and Cobra did not expect us to come out the way we did. NAACP did not expect us to come out the way we did. So we have to still continue to stay on their ass, continue to build ourselves, and we need to build up financially, because and I know people may not agree or may not see Marcel, but I think one of the great things about Marcel is that he has the ability, and he's unapologetic in getting the word out. So if we're able to finance and put some money behind somebody that is ready, willing, and has already demonstrated that they're willing to do the work to advocate for our lineage, and or even he could potentially be contagious, we can support, and Marcel is only one of a gajillion that we can get behind to help spread the word, help get others to understand that the grassroots is here. We're an alternative to the legacy organizations, and we have the ability to help get things done. Then I think we should invest and go that route. So that was to answer your question. What are some of the things we can do? That's just me thinking out loud. We can get behind those that have a proven track record of having the ability to speak to others, grab folk attention, hopefully be contagious, hopefully bring in more donors. And then, because the grassroots, I think, is the way to go. I don't think we need to stick to how things were done and our parents and our grandparents' age. And as they begin to as nature begins to move us forward, some of their ideals need to go with them to some extent. I'm trying to be careful with how I word this, because I don't want to put people in the grave and all of that. But I'm saying is that what worked in 1960 and 70 may or may not work right now in 2024 and going forward, because the world has shifted and changed since then, and we need to adapt. And I don't think the legacy organizations are adapting. I think the legacy organizations are looking to shut down the Black American consciousness. I think they're looking to flatten Blackness, and because I think that they understand for who they're receiving their funding from, that the Black American consciousness is not welcome in the new world, because it's too patriotic and it demands too much. We're not lazy. And there's a whole lot, and I don't want to hold up your stage, but I'm gonna land on that right there.
No, it's all good. Thank you. And you're right. And that's the weapon that I think we look at it like, oh, flatten Blackness was all Black people. No, they understand that there's power in delineation and flattening Blackness. And I also see opportunity for us when it comes to with that conversation, because I've noticed an increase in that particular conversation with people saying, hey, we need to flatten, we need to delineate them too. We don't need to do shit. Oh, excuse my language. It's Sunday morning. I gotta be better. Whatever. We don't need to do anything when it comes to delineating anything with them. We need to treat them all the same, but because it's power in us treating them all the same. There's no power for us to start breaking them down and say, he's not that bad white. He's the one of the good whites. No. We'll deal with you guys on an individual level. And we have to make sure that we keep that conversation there too. Make them fight each other to show, look, I'm not that, I'm not this, I'm not that. We should not be jumping in to figure out which, like to jump in front of them saying, this is a good one, that's a bad one. No, you show us better than, than you tell us. Let us see who you are. But we're not going to try to figure it out or go in and look into it ourselves. I think that's where it kind of was starting to go, or like just some of the conversations I've been hearing, people like, no, because that's a different, which white are we talking about? I don't give a fuck what white we're talking about at this point. When our ancestors were getting lynched, did they say, is this an Irish white that's lynching me? Let me figure that out before I reach whatever direction I'm going into after I die. Nobody did that. And because it didn't matter. They worked together. And honestly, they ultimately always work together. Even we saw during Vietnam where these people work together by they would go in one of the people would who was it? The Germans would sit and eat with the United States soldiers, and Black Americans couldn't even eat at the table with them, and they were open enemies. What are we talking about? And then they turned around and made whole deals after that dumbass war. As our people were executed, sent back home to have nothing in return. And that's us recognizing or paying attention to who's who. Like, hey, well, that's a German white or white. It didn't make a difference. They still eat at the same table. And we got to always pay attention to that and always go back to that point. I don't want us to get wrapped up in that shit because it takes energy away from what we can be pouring into. Let's flatten their whiteness like they weaponize flatten our Blackness. So yeah, thank you, Net, for that. You can anybody else? Oh, Brother Muko, you was next. I'm sorry, I had to think that one out.
No doubt, no doubt. Thanks for letting me speak. Great space. Shout out to everybody, the hosts, co-hosts, Black and Power, Nat, Miss D, Borderline. Borderline, you be putting in that work, y'all. Be listening, you be tripping me out, bro. But I just want to speak to the space. First of all, I want to give shouts out to all my sisters that was down there on the ground, Miss Giselle, Jelly. Had a lot of spiritual work to do over here. I had a lot of relatives passing to the ancestral realm. So, with that, got a position in your care unit, you got to be there. So, with that, I just want to shout out all the sisters and all the warrior brothers that was down there putting in that work, as we all should do, Now, speaking to the topic of the space, oh, man. Does our legacy orgs? I've always had an issue with the words in this white supremacist system that we all were born into, including me. Even with just the English language, period, it's always confusing. And my opinion on this, or my VGQ on these legacy orgs, is they definitely don't have no value to us because they are not doing anything to enhance our legacy to our offspring. Our offspring is the forefront of our legacy. That's who we're, a legacy is something that you leave behind, and these legacy orgs like Black Caucus, Coon Caucus, or the NAACP, or whoever you decide to call these organizations. When I hear or see anything that has org at the end, I'm always suspicious, and I always tend to see white supremacy in all of it. So um, the solutions are very clear. Mr. Zell said a profound point that she's always harping on to me as well, is the youth. Teaching your youth and talking to your youth about racism, white supremacy. You cannot dream it away. If you have a constructive method to eliminating white supremacy in your area, share it with everyone else. This is not the time for us to be bragging about what we know, bragging more about what we don't know when we talking about what we believe. So it's we just my VGQ is definitely starting with the youth, but talking to them about racism, white supremacy as young as they start making sounds. This has been real effective. I've been practicing it. I've seen it effective in my care unit with my children and with the younger generation in my care unit. And I've been seeing more of that. And I just implore that we keep them at the forefront, and keeping them at the forefront to keep us concentrating more on our legacies, the legacies that we're leaving behind for the individuals that we're leaving behind. It's not one day to go past that I don't think about my great, 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 great grandchild, who I'll never even get to meet. You know what I'm saying? That's 500 years planning. And, we need to stop planning, or I suggest we stop planning for next week and start planning for the next 500 years. Not to be equal to white supremacy, but to get this thing going on, or this system going on called justice. This thing that they keep faking about. You know what I'm saying? And what is justice, Brother Muko? Justice is guaranteeing that no one is ever harmed, ever, and guaranteeing whoever needs help gets the most constructive help, always. And most constructive help ain't like regular help. No, most constructive help is whatever you need help in, you won't ever need that help ever again, and that ever. So I feel like we can get that system going. I definitely feel like we got the people right here in place to keep it in place and maintain it. And more importantly, teach it and show it to our youth so that they can start emulating and maintaining a system of justice, and not, a system of voting for the lesser of two evils. I land there. Thanks for letting me speak.
Can I ask
Yeah,
Brother
thank you.
Mugo a question? Oh, go ahead. My bad.
No, go ahead with your question, and then I'll come in next. Go ahead.
Yep.
No, I was going to ask Brother Mugo, would you agree? So thanks for your summation. That was actually fantastic. That a good starting point would be within our youth, not only our youth, our modern and our elders, is to build up and establish, help them this Black American freedom pride. Because once you know and you appreciate who you are, who your ancestors are, you begin to move different. And then in the process of learning and appreciating who we are as a people, learning who those others are, how they move, and understanding how they move and how we move conflicts with one another, and looking to ourselves to help us circumvent and defeat them, rather than looking and reaching out to them to help us defeat them, which is what the legacy orgs do. And that's all that's doing, is keeping us in the same situation. I'm sorry, I'm eating, taking us in circles. So I would think that a good start, and would you agree, is to help deepen and build up our Black American freedmen pride, knowledge of self, knowledge of our ancestors, and at the same time, knowledge of who they are, how they historically operated and engaged with us, so that we know on a go-forward basis we can't continue to move the way they think that we should, because they only want us to move in a way that's beneficial to them.
I agree. And that is a strong VGQ, Miss Net. And yeah, I agree. I never agreed with fighting your enemy or fighting your enemy the way they set up and designed for you to fight them back. So to yeah, what you're saying, Miss Net, and to your point, yes, I agree.
All right, thank you for that. And good morning, almost afternoon to everybody in the space. If you guys could just retweet the space, this is the fourth edition of the Black American Debates. Thank everybody for coming to the space. So the statement I want to make is just to hopefully just expand the conversation when we're talking about um, is there any value in our legacy organizations, right? So the key word that I kind of focus in on there is value. So when we look at value, we look at it as something that's of importance to us. So, I mean, if it's important to us, is it useful, right? Is it something that's going to be useful to us? It's something that's going to be held in a high regard. And if it's held in a high regard, do they deserve support from us, right? And is there any great value to us while we're supporting them? Because those legacy organizations should never be on the defensive when it comes to supporting Black Americans and what we want. They should always be on the offensive side of things. But when we look at what recently happened in South Carolina, the NAACP kicking out the very people that they're supposed to be supporting, that was just targeted, right? But then we see the defensive part of it. So if you look in the chat, you'll see where I put down there that the NAACP, they put out a promo. And in that promo, you'll see that they say that we will continue to put Black first. That's what it says in the title of their promo. And for me, that's not a coincidence coming off of what they did at the MLK event. That was done purposely, and they had to go on the defensive to try to save face. Also, recently we had Joe Biden. He was in South Carolina. Right now, I'm not saying that they're a legacy organization, but what I am saying is that that is the party that said that they're going to have our back. That is the party who the Congressional Black Caucus promoted, that we vote for, and that they want to do things specifically for us. But is it a coincidence that Joe Biden, right after that, was in South Carolina at a Black barbershop? Of course not. We know it was all for optics. We know that it was all staged. We understand that, right? So again, those things are all defensive measures, symbolism, non-tangibles, all to try to make us forget about exactly that there is no value in any of these legacy organizations. So if anyone who's in the listener, if you have a counter argument to that point, then come on up to the stage, because this is what this is about. That we will have we'll conversate and about that, and let's bring your stance up, but it's going to be a debate about that. And the first question I want to pose is, when we talk about value in these legacy organizations, are they beneficial or not? Right? Are they beneficial or not? Mr. Zell, you want to chime in with anything else, or we can go to She Means Biz next?
No, actually, yes. Let's go to our sister She Means Biz, and then I'll jump in afterwards.
Yeah, so I just wanted to speak to something Nat said about the reputation and how a lot of the legacy organizations are riding off of their reputation. And so, one thing that we can do is when we're talking to young people, we're talking to older people, we're talking to our people in general, is everything starts with mindset. So, if we get our people to understand that doing something in the past does not guarantee a lifelong path to do whatever. And that's what is kind of happening with these legacy organizations. So we can acknowledge if they've done good things that have empowered our people in the past, but we have to get our people thinking about what are they presently doing right now, with the fact that we are facing a genocide, with the fact that they are trying to erase our contributions into this country, erase our history, and we have all of this other stuff going on. What are they doing right now? And there is absolutely zero excuse for why they are not the biggest advocates of reparations right now. The ground has been tilled. The soil is ripe. The crops are growing. How are you claiming to be an organization that's Black first, but you are not the loudest advocate of reparations? So when we begin, and lineage-based reparations at that, so when we begin to talk to our people and point some of these things out, that helps them understand that, because there is a sentimental value, there's a sentimental connection to our history and the things that have been done in the past. And so we can't ignore that. We have to speak that, but we have to say that was great, but we are in a war right now. And the same way that our enemies have infiltrated our organizations before, have infiltrated our entertainment before, and give various examples of the infiltration, this is what has happened now. So they have weaponized the things that we used before to empower ourselves and to break through different things. They have weaponized it against us. And so we have to look at it like we look at if you're decluttering your house, if you're spring cleaning, there are things that you have to go through and do an audit of. Do I really need this? And let it go. And we have to be willing to do that. There's actually people all over this country that have horror stories about some of these legacy organizations and how they have literally disrupted progress and allowed denigration in our communities. And then they try to, when somebody else outside of the organization gets something going positive for our people, they try to swoop in and become the face of it and act like they were on board the whole time. So the time is right for us to do what we're doing, and more people will start to come and back the play. We actually are the ones that are giving these organizations power, just like the HBCUs. Yes, they have funding and backing from other people, but without our credibility, without us backing them and giving them the credibility with the people, they would be useless. So this is how we disarm their quote unquote power, is by making it clear that they do not represent us and they cannot continue to receive donations and collect money off of our name while they are not in alignment with us, while they're not advocating for our specific issues. There should be we have to have a zero tolerance policy and teach our people that we're talking to have that. No, we're not going to accept an excuse. There's no reason why our people are getting kicked out of a Martin Luther King Jr. Day event for holding signs about reparations, while Palestinians are allowed to stay and protest and have a table and do whatever. There has to be no excuse that is acceptable for that. And that's how we have to teach our people, is that there is no, you can't come along and say, well, that they didn't mean it like this, or, back in the day, no. Zero tolerance. And so we have to take an assessment. I'm not saying don't be in any organization. What I'm going to say is we have to take an audit. And the same thing with the HBCUs, the same thing with the organizations, sororities, fraternities, whatever. What are they doing for our people right now? And the bottom line is, if they are doing things that are hurting our people, we need to be willing to step away and say, no, we do not back you. We do not support you. You don't represent us. And we don't care if you fall by the wayside, because what's happening is they're clogging us from being able to move forward powerfully, stronger, because they've dumped all their crap in the middle of us, in the middle of our road. Like, we're on the road making progress, and here they come with all their mess. So we have to get rid of the mess. And I'll use that as an example when it comes to the HBCUs. We're a lot of times the ones that are paying for our kids to go there while they're giving all these other people free scholarships to go there. And then our kids are dealing with harassment from these other groups. They're dealing with teachers from other cultures that are disrespecting them, that have disdain for them. I mean, there's so much crap that's going on. If we were able to get rid of stop funding some of those schools, and we found the schools that are actually doing what needs to be done for our people, and we were able to circumvent our money there, we would get better results. Because right now our money's being spread all across, and we're not getting the best result from it because there's too many people that are doing the right thing with it. So if we defund them and let them fall to the wayside, we can actually strengthen our money and our dollars by supporting, just like Net was talking about, with candidates. It's the same mindset when it comes to the schools. It's the same mindset when it comes to organizations. It's the same thing when it comes to church. I'm not going to argue with people about whether they should be in a Christian church, a Muslim church, whatever. Does your church, does your mosque move for the empowerment of our people? Because there are some churches that are out here doing amazing work in the community. They're using the skills of their people, employing people, building apartment buildings for people. They're doing things, right? They're not just collecting money and telling you about heaven and hell every Sunday. If you go to a place like that, great. Are they on board with reparations? How can they get the message going with that? Those are the things that we can be doing instead of arguing about whether you should be there or not. If your church, organization, sorority, whatever, is not serving our people, then you don't need to support them. That's the mindset that we need to be at, because everything we do, we should do things that are working to empower our people. And I think if we move with that type of mindset, we teach that type of mindset, because the reality is we don't need just one thing. We have to be firing on all cylinders. We need everything to be working towards our favor. That's what white supremacy does. It weaponizes everything in their favor to work against us. So we have to think the same way. We don't have to do things the exact same way, but when it comes to that toolkit, that weaponry, that's how we need to look at it.
I really appreciate the way you just laid that down, because, we've had this conversation for a while. And I want us to go into this conversation because going into 2024, we were introduced to this. We were given this task to deal with the legacy orgs in January for a reason. They used the legacy orgs and the churches. The legacy orgs and the churches as a way to control the way that we vote, the things that we accept and the things that we don't accept. And they give people accolades and they elevate you, and you're getting awards and all of this type of stuff. So they do that meritorious manumission, just in another way. And we've recognized this and we're putting it on blast now. But I noticed, like, do we get rid of certain things without anything to replace it with? Because that's just like saying, hey, you need to get off drugs. And you get the person off drugs, but it's like you don't give them anything to fill that void. They end up relapsing, and it's worse than it was before. And we got to treat the relationships with these platforms in that way, right? So would you guys suggest that, is there any orgs that we can elevate on a grassroots level, just like we're elevating our elected officials? This is why I'm telling you guys, I just posted it there. Please donate to Marcel. Again, he's one of the candidates that is pushing that conversation. If you know of any other candidates that are really serious, I ain't talking about people that's joking around, oh, I want to be a candidate just to troll and shit like that. We don't have time for that. If you're serious about and being on the business that we're on, is there, if you have a candidate, let us know. We can elevate them, and put them where they need to be. But do you feel like we need replacements? And I like us getting behind the schools also. That's the biggest thing. Get behind the schools that's doing the work. Like, I would never suggest us to elevate like a what is it? What the hell is this happening here? Yeah, I would never suggest for us to elevate like a Howard University. I've seen firsthand it. Like I got a straight A student. And she was even rejected from Howard. It's nuts. They do a lot of rejecting of like full blown Black American kids. It's like people that like a mixed Black American, they'll let them come to the school now, or you have to sign up to go to the school in a with a degree program that's not as powerful. Like you can't say I want to go to Howard for medical because they're gonna reject your child. You can't say you want to go to Howard for law. They're gonna reject our kids, or the music program. Those are three very powerful areas that they weaponized at that school. They weaponized it at that school for a reason, because it was producing too many people that would get the information, and lots would go that of them would go into the community and actually do things to change. So they put other Blacks in positions over top of us in those in that school specifically, and then they only pull in their people and elevate them. So I think like a Howard, we would never get behind that. But I love the idea of us doing an audit. Regardless, do you guys feel like we need to do any replacements when it comes to these legacy orgs? We used to believe that we can infiltrate them. Remember, that used to be a discussion like, yeah, let's jump in. I joined the NAACP so we could get the contact information. Like, you got the contact to all of these people. But do we really want the contact with all of those people any damn way? Should we be starting our own new contact list that's exclusive to us? Because everything that we do, they try to tap into and become a part of, and we make everything pop any damn way. So, what do you guys think about that?
Yeah, we have
And anybody?
Fahima. My bad. We got Fahima. She's new up to the stage. She just requested. So, Fahima, if you want to go ahead and just chime in, you could do so now. Fahima, can you hear me? All right. If not, Net, I saw you come off of your mic. You can go ahead.
Thank you. I don't think there necessarily needs to be a replacement. I think something can become obsolete, and that's okay. And I also think some things may not necessarily be replaced, but I think we could recenter and or transition them into something more new and improved. Like as you all were speaking, I thought of the Black church. So the Black church is considered an org, right? I would think so, as such as the Black media. And both of these orgs and or institutions have historically, in the past, been a beacon of our community. It's been a place for us to come together, to learn, to build, to do collectivism, a whole bunch of other things. So without questioning or knocking anybody's faith or belief, I think we can take what the Black church has historically been for us in Black media and just reshift the energy into something more positive. So not replace, but use them as a weapon for us, as opposed to something that we're used to looking to and not getting much. And I'm not saying that I'm not saying everyone's church or congregation isn't doing anything in the community. I'm speaking as a whole, what the Black church has historically meant for us, where it is modern day, and how we can take what's already been established and weaponize it as something that's more beneficial for us without necessarily replacing them. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's my thought.
The question I would have for you, Nat, by what you just said, what does that exactly look like?
So the Black church, for example, has the ability to bring people together. The Black church has the ability to speak to our people in a way in which others may not, because people have faith and belief in the leaders of the church. The Black church also has the ability to galvanize and or organize the community and or to get the community to feel comfortable and safe coming to them. So how could we use the Black church and their ability to speak to the people, to gather the people, and to have the community have faith in them and listen to them for something that's beneficial for us. I hope that answers your question.
Right. No, I understood what you just said about the utilization, how, they're bringing the people together so they could get one message to the people. But the message that they're giving out is not the message that's helping us right now. So that's kind of the answer I was looking for. So
Right.
how do we turn that around? How do we get them to give the right message to empower Black Americans instead of what they're doing now? Because pretty much what they're doing now, they are allowing political figures to come in who are running for office, and they promote that message. So yeah, but go ahead.
Yep, we have to create a two-way street. So in my head, so far it's been one way where we've had faith and belief and confidence in the church. So how do we get the church to have faith and confidence in those that may be outside of them? So, and then once we start having conversations with them, I'm quite sure, I know for a fact that they have congregants that actually align themselves with who we are. So how do we get to become contagious within that congregation in that church, have the leaders of that church hear us out and begin to want to collaborate with us instead of sticking to the old way? We're allowing certain folk in because they think that's who they want to speak to. And I also think there could be potentially some congregations, I'm saying potentially, maybe, where people are afraid to speak out against their church leaders and or the more popular church, and maybe feeling where we are. So how do we build how do we get those people to actually shine, and where the church may think, well, my congregation wants these Democratic shields and or let's say some Republican or Green, anybody to come in, but because they're not listening to their congregation. So how do we get to continue to do the canvassing, doing the work we're doing, penetrate those that are part of the church so that they can have a voice, and then perhaps maybe they can, long story short, collaborate with the church and get the church to respect us too and hear us out.
Can I add a picture of what that kind of looks like?
Yep,
Is that
go
okay?
ahead.
So every church has like a Sister Johnson that everybody loves and listens to. And if you call Sister Johnson, she can gather 100 of her, good girlfriends at church and get a meeting together. So you find the Sister Johnson, you start talking to her about the reparations. If you need to have Zooms with them to educate them, get Sister Johnson to get people together and start educating them on these issues. That's how you can, that's one of the ways that you can do it. And from there, it can start to spread. Sister Johnson normally has some pull at the church. She might even be the church secretary. So the preacher, she has the preacher's ear and she has the deacon's ears and all of those type of things. If she's the church secretary, she makes everything run in that church. So somebody like that, you get them on your side and you get them to help facilitate these conversations and setting up these different meetings where the education can start to go. And once you start setting that wildfire, if the church members, if their preachers giving pushback on not allowing them to discuss certain things or not bringing these issues to the forefront, they're going to start to see that something is amiss. And the other thing is, you could remind the Sister Johnsons and the people like that our church used to function that way. Our civil rights progress was made because of the churches. They weren't just praying and they weren't just talking about going to heaven and hell every Sunday. They were organizing. They were providing defense, physical defense, the deacons of defense. So it's kind of getting people back in touch with understanding that the church is supposed to be working for the betterment of the people in the community, not sitting around waiting to go to heaven or hell. That's crazy. We have lives right now. We have youth right now. And the church has a huge problem with youth at this point because they're not focusing on the issues that are going on right now. And if they're taking money and they're funding gentrification through the banks that they bank with and all that type of stuff, this is how you can begin to start uprooting some of these things. Because people are not necessarily thinking about church in that function. So if you help bring that to their forefront, it'll make it all make a little more sense for it. It's just the same way we've been saying, hey, you've been supporting the Democrats for 60 years, but they haven't been doing anything that's really brought tangibles to our people. And then you start to get people to think about that and look at it like that. And it's like, wow, you're right. And some people didn't even realize that they needed to be demanding something because they've been falling for the program that we don't ask for nothing. We just get what we can get. And if they flick a crumb off the table, hey, at least they didn't burn a cross in our yard. And we're saying, no, we are not falling for that no more.
Yes, and
That
that
was
is what I'm
great.
talking about. I believe that we have the ability to do all of that and I believe this could be a huge push. This is winter. People are inside. We have the ability to tap into these churches. The problem with certain strategies, the biggest problem that will come up is the alliances with the legacy orgs. It's crazy because once it gets into that tentacle, those are usually the mega churches that are tied into the frats and the the frats and sororities, and then the NAACPs and Congressional Black Caucuses. But even though they have all of these mega churches, there are more small churches across this entire country that was created by a person that works a 9 to 5 who was pissed off at the structure and the destruction that was happening in the mega churches. They left and they said, we're going to start something else. And they meet every Sunday with that Sister Johnson. And that's where the power comes in. Because if we gobble up 100 of those in each one of our communities across this country, and we host a mega Black churches for defense shit. Well, excuse my language, sorry about that. But Black churches for reparations, right? If we did something like a Black churches for reparations or the Black Church for Reparations conference, and we do something digitally because we meeting across the whole entire country and we want people to show up, that would be powerful. That representation, we will start elevating those smaller churches and really tap into that congregation, and then they spread that news. Those 5 to 10 people that participate in those churches, they spread it over to 5 to 10 to 20 people. And I think we can be very successful with that. I've been taking down the churches here locally for years now. And it's a good time to start using those contacts. If you guys know of any in your own community, we can really do something effective on that level. That will also get the older people in the churches that are there. Who's just a lot of times when the older people go to those smaller churches for the person that's spread away because of the things that was happening at the other church, a lot of times those older people are the ones that are the riders for the younger generation. I've seen it myself. And I think we can do something powerful. So I'm thinking even everybody in this space, we have the ability to reach out to like a good 5 small churches in our community just to find out who the contact is. And we can actually have a whole day where we do cold calls out to these people that are like certain like secretaries or whoever, and see if we can get a meeting. See if they would be a part of the meeting. We get um a nice blanket in like idea for churches across the country, and say, hey, we want you guys to participate, but it's only special people that can come. They're going to want to be a part of that. Most of the smaller churches get ignored and overrode because of the larger churches. This actually gives them more validity. Countrywide, that's a huge thing. And we could
Well,
actually,
it better
so
be small, because
exactly,
there's no such thing as state and church separated anymore. I'ma just speak for where I'm at. There's no such thing
right.
as church and state separated. That's why because it's a lot of that going on here in Houston. That's the reason why they doing inaugurations, and that's the reason why they getting that money. They building stuff all around Houston, these pastors. It's because they getting the money from these people.
Those mega churches. And that's where we come in. This is where we come in because we got to remember, this has been a successful web for decades, dang on it, near almost 100 years over that they've been building this web. Is very successful. We've seen it. But like any lie, any illusion, that illusion dies off because the only thing that stands strong and true and that's attractive is truth. You become unattractive to lies, or it creates confusion if it's a lie after a while. So you notice, like, people go to these mega churches and they leave, or especially the ones that's doing all this other stuff, because it's not attractive. And then people that just find comfort in chaos, they just need to be a part of something. Those are the ones that stick to that, and you can see it by the actions that happen in those churches. But yeah, I love this. I really think we need to have that conference right after we rock off that conference in Chicago in August. We need to be making September. We need to roll off that August Ogun energy, and September be the year that we do the conference for those for the churches. And that would be beautiful because we're going right into the election year and the information will be fresh. But we'll have a whole 8 months to have these conversations with these churches. But having a whole live conference with all of them, having a say, like, look, finally somebody's listening to us. And hey, finally we get a chance to help really make a change and bring people to God, because some people need structured religion. Some people do. Some people can say, you know what, me and God got our own personal relationship and we rock off good here. I don't need this or that or the other. But some people need somewhere to go on that level. So I think this is a beautiful I think we're coming up with something beautiful now. But anyway, we're gonna go back to the hands. We got DP the cable guy, my brother Dupree, and Black Pressure on stage. I don't know which one was first. Black and Power.
Miss G, can I get in the
It
queue?
was,
I can't raise my hand. Could you put me in the queue?
Oh, there you go. Oh
yeah.
yeah.
Let's go with
Yeah,
Oh,
let's go with
yeah.
Hema.
We go with Fahima because she was up there first. But I wanted to say something about what She Means Biz said. I really like that idea. And
Yeah.
again, I don't think it's going to happen on a grand scale or like a mega church, but the smaller churches, I like that. We know those are the ones that are mostly within the inner cities, right? Those are mostly the ones that, they have that smaller congregation, but instead of trying to get right to the pastor, and that's normally what we want to do, we want to get right to the pastor and say, hey, you stop, spreading this message, and this is the message that we want the people to hear, because that's normally what the politicians do. They go right to the pastor, but instead, the suggestion was to use the church membership and also use the church leadership in order to get to the pastor and, to change the conversation that would benefit us, to get them to get back to the basics as well. So, yeah, I absolutely love that idea that she came up with. Because again, we normally want to get right to the head of the church and say, hey, no, you don't do this, you do that. But once that church sees their church membership, their numbers, the congregation dying down, and they know what the reason why, because the word will get around the church, then their messaging will change. So I like that idea a lot. It takes more time, but it's a great idea.
And don't discount the mega churches, because the reality is the church is made of the people. If the pastor never gets on board, who cares? If the people are empowered with the message, they talk about and do stuff all the time that's outside of what their pastor agrees with and all that. So we just need to get to the people and find the people that have the influence to bring people together. Whether you start off with 10 people, 20 people, it can grow from there. You just need to find somebody that's willing to get the education and start getting people together to get the education.
I just like to add very quickly so y'all can move your stage. I also went and discount the mega churches in the sense where they still have to compete with the smaller churches to some extent, because you do not want to lose your congregants, because that's what makes you mega. It's the tithes that they're paying into. And I think that they would want, if enough of the local smaller churches are adjusting and reaching out to the community and getting the community's ear, the mega churches naturally are going to compete and are naturally going to want to compete with those smaller churches.
Shout out to that too. All right, we'll go ahead with the hands for HEMA, and then DP, the cable guy, and then Black Pressure right after that.
Good morning to everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. I wanted to address a couple of things, and actually, I wasn't going to say anything, but first, I wanted to address one of the things someone said. I have 2 degrees from Howard University, and I teach for the past 20 years at another HBCU. And when one applies to a school, you're not assigned a major. You put on the application what it is that you're intending to apply for. For the School of Fine Arts, people have to do auditions, particularly at Howard and also at the HBCU that I teach at. The other thing, as an educator, I've been working with young people since 2003. And I know that it has been said that the NAACP, which I'm not a member of, and the Congressional Black Caucus and the Divine Nine. I'm not a member of Divine Nine, but I think we all know people who are. But the Congressional Black Caucus, I was a CBC fellow, and I interned with Congressman Charles Rangel and had the opportunity to travel abroad for the first time with the U.S. Congress Korean Assembly exchange program. And I put in the chat opportunities that the CBC offers in fellowships, scholarships, internships, gateway to opportunities that historically Black people have not had. We don't have those connections with an uncle who's a congressman or a senator who can give them a job on the Hill. And I often hear people particularly critique the CBC, which I know more about than the other organizations, and say, oh, they're not doing anything for Black people. And I'm not saying anyone here, but I've never heard any of these people go to their web page, look at their policy papers, and more importantly, look at the opportunities that the CBC particularly are providing for young people, opportunities that they wouldn't get anywhere else. I've had a number of students who have gotten scholarships, internships, fellowships, and had opportunities they ordinarily would not have had. And I'm going to land here. I've heard conversations about we need to, well, I've heard some negative things about in terms of what young people should be doing and organizing them to attack other folks and being on the offensive rather defensive. I think young people need to be educating themselves, taking advantage of as many opportunities as possible. We have this whole thing with artificial intelligence. We need to be learning about that so we can empower ourselves to get these knowledge and skills and go back and improve our communities. And again, I put in the chat information about the CBC's internships, scholarships, and fellowships, and as well as the opportunities that NAACP is offering. And those of you who have children and grandchildren who are college students, I would recommend that you take that information and have them apply for those internships, scholarships, and other opportunities.
Thank you so much, Ms. Fahim. I needed your voice on the stage. Let me tell you why. One, the Congressional Black Caucus president in D.C. just a couple of months ago cursed at an elder because she was talking about she asked a question he didn't want to answer. Secondly, the NAACP threw us out of event, and we wasn't even a protester. We were literally there cheering on the speakers that they invited to speak, and we didn't boo anybody that we didn't agree with. And we was talking and spreading the good news about reparations. Thirdly, let's talk about Howard University, which is a beautiful, beautiful place. But when it comes to the history of our people, right? When you think about a lot of people that came there, we was able to do a lot once upon a time, I would assume. But guess what happened? There was a situation for the last couple of years where people were registering, dozens of people registering for positions at Howard, for roles at Howard that they completely qualified for. And Howard University has rejected them. But people that we knew who had kids who were not Black American they were accepted into those positions. As a matter of fact, someone even said it at an event that we went to at Howard recently, the same one that the Congressional Black Caucus person cursed at us at. She even said, it feels like we're being pushed out of these areas. And that's one of the people that Howard even invited to speak there. Black Americans specifically, she was speaking on, are being pushed out of our own music and all of those roles even in the programs at Howard University. So if you're speaking on anything, if we're going to have these conversations, we got to be honest. I'm glad that you came up here because maybe you can tell your people that they're on notice. We need somebody to let them know. You can absolutely let them know that they're on notice for the things that they're doing. And yes, people are getting scholarships, but is the majority of our Black youth are not getting those scholarships. They're assigning those scholarships to other people. They even have scholarships specifically for people from the Caribbean. They have scholarships specifically for people from Africa. And then you got those same people that can be included in anything that is given to our Black youth. And our Black youth, they get if it was a situation where our Black youth didn't get to have to compete with the others, why is it that at Morgan University they're made a deal with Nigeria to create 70 doctors? Where's that same commitment to Black American youth? We got to let's wake this stuff up. I'm glad that you're here. I'm actually glad that you're a professor because maybe you can add some context as to what's really happening right now because we're watching in real time. These are people in these spaces who have families, who has children. And let me tell you, I don't raise no dummies. My kids are absolute scholars. Big ups to my son. Just passed me his grades for the month, for this quarter. We're raising scholars in these areas, and they're getting rejected from programs that they overly qualify for. But other schools, white universities, and some HBCUs are like, "Hey, I want this person." I had one HBCU port. They was like, "Look, we're gonna give you 118,000 for your child." Literally, straight off the bat. Didn't even We signed up, and less than 2 weeks later, they gave that to my daughter.
Yeah, I'm
So
sorry, I got knocked off. I got knocked off the
no, it's
no, because I didn't hear some of the stuff you had originally said, but I would just say this in some of what you just said. We have the Bison STEM program, which recruit students for science, technology, engineering, and math. It was part of the TRIO program. I was in the TRIO program where they're specifically recruiting us to go and get PhDs in at the PhD level. And that's one of the programs that Howard has, the Bison STEM program, where you're followed throughout your entire tenure at the university. And there's also the MD PhD program. I'm sorry, the BSW MD program, 5-year undergrad and medical school. So what you were saying earlier was incorrect.
No, it's not incorrect because it's actual people who are getting the rejections that was speaking on it. This isn't like I'm not just sitting here saying it. It's happened. Shit,
But
my
that's
daughter was
anecdotal,
rejected.
sister. That's anecdotal. If I applied to
Yeah, but
a program
it,
and I didn't, it's just like you have, and I'm going to land because I know you want other people to speak. It's just like these people who are attacking affirmative action. So you had a person that didn't get into Harvard, and they'll say, "Well, I didn't get into Harvard because they're letting all of these Black people in." It's anecdotal. If I apply to a school and I don't get in, that doesn't mean that they're not accepting everyone like me. That means that I obviously didn't get in, and I don't see in 20 some odd years, I don't see any evidence that Black American students are being pushed out of HBCUs.
Oh my God.
Can I
I
please?
just
You,
want
you,
to
you
say,
cannot be can't be serious.
Yep, you guys can jump in. Send me a actually as you come on the stage, I'll add you to the chat so that I can do an order. Actually, Black and Power, if you could create a chat for it, that'll be good. No, this is good. This is good. We need conversation because Miss Fahima, It actually is happening. I'm always on Howard campus. So like for whatever event that you guys are having, I always come through so that we can see what the conversation is about. Well, I've been to several schools, black HBCU schools, and I'm an advocate, and everybody in here knows. Oh no, Giselle wants to make sure that we do this. Let's try to get back into the HBCUs and make it into what we want it to be. This ain't no knock to HBCUs. This is a knock to the power structure at the HBCUs. This is a knock to how youth are being selected into certain programs at these HBCUs. Yeah, you got some Black American youth going to Howard, but how many is in the medical field? Black Americans specifically. How many is in the engineering? How many is in the law field over there? If they have engineering, I don't know about that part, but I know about the medical and the law program at Howard. How many Black American, not other Black, is in Howard University? And why is it that if you look at the debts at a lot of these schools, because we actually had someone who came in from the financial department from a school that I won't mention a little while ago, and they actually said the finances, the people who are in debt at these HBCUs, it's primarily Black American youth. It's not the little African, it's not African kids or anybody else. And when it comes to the scholarships, go on, what is it? The Negro, what is it? It's the Negro Fund. Yeah, they got like the Negro Fund. A lot of those scholarships, they have stuff specifically for people from other places. But when you go to Black Americans, it's like a lot of that stuff is not even realistic. If you're an actual Black American from a Black American community, they're not being positioned to be able to really get the amount of money. And if you know something different, you could prove it to us. We can host a space and let's go through the we could go through the checklist, because it's a checklist. They'll say, hey, what's your GPA? What's this? What's your what's your position in school? And then they'll pull up all of the scholarships that you qualify for. On the Negro website, we qualify for the least amount.
You're talking about the United Negro College Fund?
Yeah, then with the United Negro College Fund. Yes, that's
The United Negro College Fund is specifically designed for Black people. I just want to address this. First off, international students are not eligible for any federal aid in this country. One of the things that either they're paying for cash, they're either paying themselves, but they're not eligible. If you're not an American citizen, you are not eligible to acquire any federal aid. So, and you made mention, but yes, historically there's been issues with people being in debt, and I'm going to put the information in the chat on how people can apply for student loan forgiveness through the U.S. Department of Education. But what I wanted to say is that the two programs that I mentioned, the Bison STEM program and the MS, the BS-MD program at Howard University, those are fully funded. Those are free rides that are specifically geared to get Black students in the PhDs program and in the medical doctors field. And I'm gonna stop because I know other people want to talk.
I just want to say this real quick. Fahima, these critiques in this space are not just from one testimony, two testimonies, one conversation. These are ongoing conversations that we've had for years, where we have talked to students, we have talked to people that worked at HBCUs and high-level positions in the admin. We are not making any of the assessments in this room based off of one or two things or based off of one or two instances. There is an entire problem going on right now, and there's not going to be any talking out of what's happening. The results speak for themselves. And I just also want to make the distinction that we are not talking about Black people in general. We are talking about foundational Black Americans, those who are descendants of people that were enslaved in this country. So this is the conversation.
Yes.
First, need to ask her, do she know the difference in between what you talking about?
And let's hold on a second, everybody. Let's bring some I guess a little bit of order back into the space. The one thing I want to say, let's go with the hands, right? When the host is speaking, You can't cut off the host. You can't cut off the co-host. Uh, let her go ahead and say what she has to say, and then you go ahead. Understand that when you're having a dialogue, sometimes things like that happen. But let the person finish what they're going to say, and then you can have a response to it after that. So with that being said, let's go ahead with DP, the cable guy next, and then it's Black Pressure, and then I see Miss T has her hand up, and that'll.
And before we even go any further, I want to be clear again, Fahima, I'm glad that you're in this space because now we can really have the conversation with somebody who's there. Um, and we've had the conversations 50 billion times. We've been to these places. We're dealing with it with our own children. Now we have another voice of opposition with what we're speaking about. So I'm actually I would love to see, because we're not seeing it in society. The people, if I want to know how many doctors are produced from the doctors and lawyers are produced from the Howard University list. And then I want to know how many, and then we can look into society and we can see we don't see a reflection of us as lawyers. Maybe a paralegal. We see a lot of us as paralegals. But I don't see a lot of us as actual lawyers, or even if you do become a lawyer, us running our own law firms. We have a society of Black lawyers, but we should have more than 1,000 Black lawyers across the country. It doesn't even make sense. We should have about 1 million Black lawyers. If we got 40 some million, 50 some million, 60 some million Black Americans here in this country, why is it that we only looking at 1,000 lawyers? That doesn't make sense. Why is it that we're looking at 500 Black American doctors across the damn country? If that is even the case. So if what I would like, Fahima, if you can, as we go back to the hands, because I'm really glad that you're here and we're talking about this. Do you know how many Black doctors, we'll have it flattened for the sake of saying Black doctors, how many Black doctors are produced from Howard every year? And then we can look on a countrywide scale as to how many Black doctors are across the country through other states. So we can do that research. We just want to know how many are produced out of Howard. I think it's about 9 HBCUs or so. 9 HBCUs maybe that produce like people that go into the medical field. It was something like that we discussed once before. I don't get that number correct. But I would like to know how many doctors Howard University produced and how many Black lawyers Howard produced. And then we'll look at some stats countrywide once you get that. All right, so we're going to go back to the hands in the order that Black and Power said. Thank you, Fahima, for sharing that. And it's on you, DP.
Yo, what's up? Shout out to the room. What's up? Shout out to you, Miss Jizzle. But yeah, I think we gotta do like other coaches in the sense of we gotta raise and put our money behind our next generation of doctors and lawyers. That's why I just stand on top of our businesses and start learning how to make money together, and then yeah, like we gotta do like everybody else. We gotta pay for the scholarships. You know what I'm saying? We gotta put the money into our kids' pockets to graduate, doing the 8 years to be a doctor, and you know what I mean, and doing the law education. So I mean, it still kind of points back to us in the sense of being able to now adjust to capitalism and really utilize our dollars and weaponize it to be self sufficient. I land on that though.
Okay, thank you for that. Black Pressure, it's on you.
Hey, good morning, Black family. I wanted to kind of piggyback off a point that I think the three different ladies made in the space earlier. I think it was Miss Net or Miss Netta. I apologize if I pronounced that wrong. I think She Means Business brought it up, and Miss Giselle also brought it up. Now, what I'm gonna say is pretty much gonna be the textbook definition of a conundrum. So it's praise for you ladies, but it also has some contention in it. And I want to make this clear: the contention isn't coming from, you know, the vantage point of just being contentious. It's actually, the contention is personal experience and self-education. So I know you ladies brought up getting the black churches behind the reparations movement. So once again, I want to make this clear. I absolutely agree with you ladies when you bring that up. On its face, I'm a supporter, and like I said, I absolutely agree with that as a strategy for getting bolstering the reparations movement. But this is where my contention comes in. So it's 2 points, and like I say, this is from personal experience. When you talk about the black church, and I know you ladies brought up individuals in the black church, I think that's the point I agree with. But when you talk about the black church, you talk about an institution. The black church is, believe it or not, is an institution in America. And with that institution, it has leadership. It not only has local leadership, it has national leadership. And like I say, this is from personal experience. Once you approach these churches and talk about getting behind the reparations movement, the national leadership is going to strike that down, because I've had these conversations with churches before. And like I said, I don't want to hog the mic, so I'm not going to go into the nuances and the details, but I'll move on to my second point. Once you talk about the black church, you have to remember, even though I know a lot of people, you know, feel a certain way about this, when you talk about the black church, the foundation of the black church is its actual roots is religion. And when you talk about religion, I'm not talking about the globe's religion. I'm talking about Western religion, the religion on this side of the world that we live on. There's an ethos that comes with Western religion, and is going to be that, you know, whatever deity you believe in, God, or, you know, the sub deities, Jesus, Virgin Mary, whatever angels you might hold in high regard. Western religion teaches a certain ethos that God loves everybody. And like I say, this is from personal experience. Once you approach the church about doing something specific for a specific people group, that ethos is going to contend with that. You'll say, okay, the sons and daughters of the transatlantic slave trade in America, we need reparations. And once again, I know I keep beating this over the head. This is personal experience. These people are going to say, but what about everybody else? And like I said, I won't go into the nuances of it because I want everybody to talk, but I'll land my plane and I'll mute up and listen.
And that's exactly what I was talking about, personal experience here in Houston, Texas. You come here thinking they're going to go against these pastors here in Houston. That's these people giving all this money to these pastors and letting them build all these apartments and homes all over Houston. They are not going against these pastors. That's why I specifically said I'm going to speak on where I'm from. They will not do it. It has happened here. It has tried to happen here. That's why I said smaller churches, yes. But the mega churches here, I've seen too many experiences with these mega churches here. They will not go against them.
So the ask isn't for anybody to go against the grain or to go against their pastor. The ask, I think what we're saying is, outside of the church, these individuals exist. They're allowed to think and move according to who they are and to put forth their beliefs. So the ask is not the church to become a reparationist or a reparationist organization, but to utilize the people within the church to help spread the word and educate. Because here in Florida, where DeSantis says we can't teach Black history, it's these Florida churches that are networking nationally in order to specifically bring Black American history back to the community. So there are ways in which we can leverage the peoples of the church without actually going against and creating beef within the church and or creating any sort of negativity between the congregation and their pastor and or their leader, and or having pastors to go against whatever it is that they have committed to on a national scale. Utilizing the people, weaponizing what the church already has for our benefit, instead of us continuing to go with the, that whole get along. What's the saying? Go along and get along.
Okay, let's go with Miss T.
Hey, family. Miss Giselle, thank you for hosting this space, and Black and Power for co-hosting. I've heard some great, beautiful ideas. And
Sit down.
can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Miss T.
Okay.
Yeah.
And people, Miss Giselle has said some things that I wanted to say to Fahima, in that, Fahima, we hear what you're saying, and that Black people are being accepted. But what we are focusing on is the descendants of the enslaved people here in America. We're not talking about the international students. Well, on some level, we're talking about the international students that are paying. But our students, homebred, the reason why these schools were created, are not being accepted. And I do think we need to have an audit. We need to see how many, I want to use, I'll just say descendants of slavery in America students are being accepted, that you know what, I'll turn around, are being turned down, that qualify. Okay. And who's being accepted in their positions? Are they taking students that are paying for the education internationally over our own? Let me ask you, Ms. Fahima, are you a descendant of chattel slavery in America, or are you a first or second generation immigrant?
Go ahead, Fahima, you can respond because she's talking directly to you. Fahima, can you hear me? Well, give her
Okay.
a couple minutes, Miss T. She might be having issues with her.
Okay. And I'll come back to her, because I really want to, because she sounds very passionate, of course, in talking about her job. But the thing is, we're concerned about us, because we're the ones dying. We don't have doctors that know how to apparently treat Black people, Black Americans. We don't have the same social makeup as a lot of people. It's a reason why we have high blood pressure more than white people, or we have sickle cell. Our bodies are definitely different. So we need our own. Even in going to Nigerian doctors, after knowing how these people feel about us, and even the Indian doctors, right? After knowing now how these people feel about us is ingrained in them, maybe they're not giving us the best medical care we could be getting. Maybe there are medications out there with lower side effects, but they're not giving us those. Because of an ingrained hatred, they may be giving us something that has more side effects or causes. And we just need us in these schools. And we do need an audit. We need to audit the United Negro College Fund. Who's getting the funds? Is it Black Americans, descendants of child slavery, or is it anybody that call themselves Black? And while we wait on her to come back, I wanted to touch on the church issue. I love the idea
Black Church Conference. And I think we can have a conference to kind of fill out what churches would be best to work with. Okay. Because as someone said, one of the gentlemen said, I want to say it was Black Pressure. These churches work under a structure, and they can easily be turned away from the game plan to uplift Black people. Because let's face it, it's money in poverty for our boule or our, they play on the suffering of Black people to create more wealth for themselves. I think a Black Church Court conference to give us an insight as to who we can work with and who we cannot. A lot of times, if they see a certain Black church, they'll say getting out of pocket, they'll go in, sweet talk them, leave them with a set of keys to a new car, or, he can find a bigger donation to go towards, something for his congregation. So I think if we look at it as more of a intel type thing where we're not giving out a lot of information, but seeing who we can work with.